Now we're looking at another category or subdivision of anti antibacterial drugs. Okay, you say antibiotics, and these are the drugs that will act by what, inhibiting that the bacterial cell wall shouldn't be formed properly. Of course, if the cell wall is not formed properly, the cell wall is just like a fence around the organism. Once the cell wall is not strong, the organism can now be easily attacked. Do you understand? So inhibitors of bacterial cell wall formation. Okay, so this is a cell wall. Okay, so this was the act on the cell wall. So what are the categories of drugs that fall under this, and what are the examples under the categories? So why is the cell wall a target? Cell wall has a peptidoglycan cell wall. Okay, the bacteria has a peptidoglycan cell wall. Now the cell wall is what gives it rigidity. This is what protects it from any attack. So human cells lack peptidoglycans. So one thing is, when you give this drug will only act on the bacterial cell and not a human cell. So the drug will interfere with the peptidoglycan production. So the bacteria will now be like it has no fence. It's now fragile. It's now prone to all sorts of attacks. You understand? So examples of drugs that fall under this, we have the beta-lactam antibiotics. So we have drugs like the penicillins, the cephalosporins, the carbapenems, the monobactams. This is penicillins. Okay, all right. So most of these drugs, they contain a beta-lactam ring, and they bind towards penicillin proteins. Okay, so they now inhibit cross-linking. Like for the cell wall of fence to be formed, there's a whole lot of crossings here and there. It's a crossing that ultimately makes it very strong. So it will now lead to what is weak cell wall, which is prone to break down. Do you understand? So next we have the words glycopeptides like the vancomycin. So drugs like the vancomycin, the teicoplanin. So these drugs, they basically bind to the D-ALA terminus of the peptidoglycan precursors. They also prevent cross-linking. Okay, then we have the fosfomycin, also inhibits an enzyme known as the N-pyruvyl transferase. So the enzyme too is very important in the formation of that peptidoglycan wall. Okay, so all these activities will ultimately now lead towards the bacteria having a weak cell wall. Then we have the bacitracin, inhibits the bactoprenol dephosphorylation. What, it's a process. It's also important in the formation of the cell wall. Then we have the cycloserine, also inhibits an enzyme that is very important in the formation of the cell wall. So all these drugs, they basically act against the cell wall being formed properly. So that's what we got for this.